Oh, give me some men who were stout-hearted men.
You remember the door. Jack Tripper rushing through it. Mr. Roper staring like he knew too much. Chrissy saying something innocent that somehow made everything worse. But behind that famous apartment door, Three's Company was hiding a much heavier story. John Ritter died suddenly at 54. Suzanne Somers left at the height of fame, then died at 76.
Well, I said, you know, you can't plan feelings, I don't know, but I have to tell you right now,
One replacement later described the show as painful. One actress nearly vanished from Hollywood. Two landlords left for a spin-off and never fully got the magic back. And the biggest question is not who made America laugh. The real question is, who paid the price for that laugh?
What's there to talk over, Jen? I think he'd make a terrific roommate. Oh, so
This is Three's Company, the cast you loved and the real story behind the door. At first, it looked harmless. A small apartment, a couch, a kitchen door, a living room where one misunderstanding could destroy the whole day. Jack would panic. Janet would try to fix it. Chrissy would misunderstand it. Mr. Roper would walk in at the worst possible moment, then give that little look, like he knew the audience was already laughing. That was the magic. The show made chaos feel safe. But the first shock is this. Three's Company was not only about roommates, it was about pretending. Jack pretended to be someone he was not, just to keep a roof over his head. And off-screen, the actors also became trapped inside versions of themselves that America did not want them to change.
That's right, officer. Would you like to eat some cake?
Never mind the cake. Didn't I see you at the
John Ritter became the falling man. Suzanne Somers became the blonde joke. Joyce DeWitt became the sensible one. The Ropers became the nosy landlords. Don Knotts became the nervous man at the door. And when the show became a hit, those labels became harder to escape. Three's Company aired from 1977 to 1984. 8 seasons. 172 episodes. That sounds like a dream. But sometimes, the dream is the thing that locks the door. Before we open that door fully, remember this. One star left while the show was still huge. One co-star stopped speaking to her for decades. One actress stepped into a role fans were not ready to accept. One later said the job felt like the worst years of her life. And one actor's real death made every old pratfall feel different. Start with John Ritter. Jack Tripper. The smile. The panic. The sideways glance. The man who could turn one lie, one locked door, one unexpected landlord, into a full-body emergency. You remember the scenes. Jack trying to explain something that already sounded guilty. Jack hiding in the wrong room. Jack falling over furniture like the floor had betrayed him. Jack using charm as a life raft while the truth was sinking behind him. The audience believed John Ritter was just naturally funny, but the opposite truth is this. He was not just funny, he was exact. John Ritter was born in 1948 into a show business family.
Actually, I went down a Black Diamond run, the hardest run, but
His father was Tex Ritter, a famous singing cowboy and actor. John had comedy in his blood, but what he did on Three's Company was not random. It was controlled chaos. That is why Jack worked. Ritter could fall without making Jack look empty. He could lie without making Jack look cruel. He could panic and still make you trust him. That is rare. But here is where the laugh starts to break. The man who made sudden collapse look harmless on screen died after a sudden medical emergency in real life. In 2003, while working on 8 Simple Rules, John Ritter became ill on set. He died from an aortic dissection. He was only 54. And once you know that, the old scenes hit differently. Jack Tripper always bounced back.
I got Three's Company. I knew when I did the pilot that if it sold and was successful.
John Ritter did not get that final recovery. The character survived every misunderstanding. The actor did not survive the emergency nobody saw coming. But that is only the first door, because the biggest explosion inside Three's Company happened while the show was still at the top. Suzanne Somers, Chrissy Snow, the pigtails, the high voice, the wide-eyed confusion, the strange little answers that made Jack freeze, and Janet look like she wanted to disappear into the kitchen. Fans remember Chrissy as innocent, almost weightless, like she floated through the apartment without understanding the danger she had just created.
I never felt that I finished that character, and I loved what I had created with.
But the opposite truth is this. Suzanne Somers became the center of one of the hardest power struggles in sitcom history. Before Three's Company, she had appeared in American Graffiti. But Chrissy made her famous, very famous, and that fame came with a problem. The audience saw Chrissy as sweet and silly, but Suzanne Somers saw her own value rising. She wanted more money, she wanted better treatment, she wanted to be paid closer to the level of her male co-star. And then the door closed. Her role was reduced. The relationship with the show broke, and Chrissy was gone. That is the part viewers still argue about. Was it ambition? Was it punishment? Was it business? Was it ego? Or was it a woman asking for more, inside an industry that did not want her asking at all?
About time you realize Jack is no saint. He's got the same desires as any normal male. What's that?
The show was about three people sharing a home, but behind the scenes, one of the three was pushed out of the room. And the silence lasted for decades. Suzanne Somers and Joyce DeWitt did not properly reconnect for many years. Somers and John Ritter also repaired their friendship only later. That makes the reruns feel strange, because on-screen, Chrissy, Janet, and Jack feel like a unit. Off-screen, the unit broke. Somers did not disappear. She rebuilt. She became an author, a businesswoman, a wellness personality, a television star again on Step by Step. But Chrissy never fully left her. Suzanne Somers died in 2023 after a long battle with breast cancer. She was 76. And that makes her story more than a sitcom firing.
And we were too young when you first started writing about hormones, she said, and none of us
It becomes the story of a woman remembered as silly who fought to be taken seriously. But after Chrissy left, the show had an impossible question. How do you replace someone the audience still wants back? That question fell first on Jenilee Harrison. Cindy Snow, Chrissy's cousin, the new blonde, the clumsy one, the temporary answer. On screen, Cindy bumped into things, dropped things, interrupted the rhythm. But off screen, she had walked into one of the hardest jobs on television. The audience believed she was just a replacement. But the opposite truth is this. Being a replacement is not easy. It is a trap. If she acted too much like Chrissy, people would call her a copy. If she acted too different, people would say the show had changed.
Oh, I'm so sorry I can't be there.
I don't care what anybody says.
Cindy was not only a character, she was a test. Could Three's Company survive without Suzanne Somers? For a while, the answer was yes. But the apartment still felt different. Because when a beloved character leaves, the furniture stays the same, but the air changes. Jenilee Harrison later moved on, including work on Dallas. But her time on Three's Company carries a quiet truth. Sometimes people call you lucky, when really you entered during the storm. And the storm was not finished. Because then came Priscilla Barnes. Terri Alden. The nurse. The sharper roommate. The woman who entered after the show had already survived one rupture, and needed to prove it could survive another. The audience believed Terri was just the new girl.
Try the Red Cross, Larry. They handle disasters.
But the opposite truth is this. Priscilla Barnes later described her time on Three's Company in deeply unhappy terms. That is a hard reveal, because viewers saw bright lights, fast jokes, and a cheerful apartment. But one of the women inside that apartment remembered the experience very differently. Terri was written stronger than Chrissy, less dreamy, more direct, more adult. But the job came with pressure. The show was already famous, the fans already had opinions, the cast history was already complicated. And Barnes had to stand in the middle of all of it, smiling. That is one of the darkest truths about sitcoms. A set can look warm on camera and still feel cold to the person standing there. Priscilla Barnes kept acting after the show.
Oh, look what time it is. I have got to change my clothes for work. It was nice seeing you again, Randy. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.
She built a long career, including later recognition from Jane the Virgin. But Terri remains the door many viewers enter first. That is the bargain of television. It gives you a room in people's memory, then sometimes refuses to let you leave it. But not every mystery in Three's Company was about who replaced whom. One of the strangest stories belongs to the actress who stayed. Joyce DeWitt. Janet Wood. The steady one. The practical one. The roommate who kept the apartment from flying apart. When Jack lied too fast, Janet pulled him back. When Chrissy misunderstood too much, Janet tried to translate reality. When the whole room was about to collapse, Janet was usually the person holding the center.
For the last 30-odd years, whenever something about Three's Company comes up,
The audience believed Janet was the normal one. But the opposite truth is this. Joyce DeWitt's life after the show became one of the quietest mysteries in the cast. She was born in 1949 in Wheeling, West Virginia. She studied acting seriously. She earned a degree from Ball State University and later an MPhA from UQual. That matters because Janet was not played by someone who accidentally wandered into a sitcom. DeWitt was trained. Focused, serious about the craft, she stayed for all 8 seasons, through Chrissy, through Cindy, through Terri, through the Ropers, through Mr. Furley, through every change. She was the constant. Then, after the show ended, she stepped away from the Hollywood spotlight for years. That is the part that creates the question. Why would someone at the center of a massive sitcom choose quiet? Maybe because not every actor wants to live forever inside a rerun. Maybe because silence can be protection. Maybe because after years of being watched, privacy feels like rescue. Joyce DeWitt did return to acting, especially theater, and later reconnected publicly with Suzanne Somers. But her long step back gives her story a different power. Janet kept the apartment together. Joyce DeWitt chose a life where the apartment did not control everything. And that brings us to the people outside the apartment. The ones who made every secret dangerous. Norman Fell and Audra Lindley. Stanley and Helen Roper. If you remember Three's Company, you remember Mr. Roper's suspicion, the slow look, the smirk, the feeling that he had just heard enough to misunderstand everything, and you remember Helen, wanting romance, wanting attention, wanting life, while Stanley seemed happiest avoiding all three. The audience believed the Ropers were side characters, but the opposite truth is this. They were one of the engines of the show. Without Mr. Roper, Jack's secret had no teeth. Without Helen, the apartment had no older mirror. The young people upstairs were chasing freedom. The Ropers downstairs were showing what happens when life becomes routine. Norman Fell was born in 1924. Audra Lindley was born in 1918. Both had serious acting careers before Three's Company. They were not just funny faces near the door, they were skilled performers, turning tiny looks into full jokes. Then came the spin-off.
I'm next.
But what if they find that stuff in there? Helen, you don't let...
Teacher's coming.
Helen?
The Ropers got their own show. On paper, that sounded like a reward. But here is the shock. Sometimes a promotion is actually an exit. The Ropers left the apartment, and the apartment was never exactly the same. Their own show did not last long, and after that they remained loved, but forever attached to the roles that had worked best beside Jack, Janet, and Chrissy. Audra Lindley died in 1997, Norman Fell died in 1998, and with them, the old downstairs world disappeared. But Three's Company still needed someone watching the door. So Don Knotts arrived, Ralph Furley. The loud clothes, the nervous confidence, the man who dressed like he had won a fight with a curtain store.
Name's Ralph Furley, bachelor at large.
The audience believed Mr. Furley was just the new landlord. But the opposite truth is this. Don Knotts brought an entire television past into the apartment. Before Furley, he was already Barney Fife, a classic TV legend, a master of nervous energy. And that made his arrival risky. Because he was not only replacing a character, he was replacing a rhythm. Mr. Furley worked because he fit the real theme of the show, pretending Jack pretended, the roommates pretended, the landlords misunderstood, and Furley pretended most of all. He pretended to be cool, he pretended to be stylish, he pretended to be in control. But every nerve in his body told the truth. That made him funny. And strangely sad, because beneath the clothes, beneath the bragging, beneath the panic, Furley was another lonely man outside the apartment door, trying to look bigger than he felt. Don Knotts died in 2006 at age 81, and with him, another piece of classic television history was gone. But there was one more figure who kept entering the room, bringing trouble with a smile. Richard Kline. Larry Dallas. The neighbor, the salesman, the man with bad advice, perfect timing, and confidence that usually made things worse. The audience believed Larry was only comic support. But the opposite truth is this. Larry showed the life Jack pretended to have. Jack was trapped in a lie. Larry moved like a man who had no consequences. That contrast mattered. Every time Larry came in, the apartment got more dangerous, more adult, more chaotic.
I'd like to see you try.
He opened a window to the outside world, especially the Regal Beagle, the bar where the characters could pretend they were not trapped by the same old misunderstandings. Richard Kline is still alive, and that gives his story a different weight. He is not just a side character anymore. He is one of the remaining witnesses, one of the people who still remembers what that apartment felt like, before it became a museum of television ghosts. Now look at the full picture. John Ritter, gone. Suzanne Somers, gone. Norman Fell, gone. Audra Lindley, gone. Don Knotts, gone. Ann Wedgeworth, gone. Joyce DeWitt, still here. Richard Kline, still here. Jenilee Harrison, still here. Priscilla Barnes, still here. And suddenly, Three's Company does not feel like only a sitcom. It feels like a room full of echoes. The couch is still there in memory. The door still opens. The kitchen still waits for someone to hide behind it. Mr. Roper still looks suspicious. Chrissy still misunderstands. Janet still tries to fix everything. Jack still falls. But time has changed the joke. Because now we know what happened after the laugh track. We know one star fought over value and left. We know one friendship stayed broken for decades. We know one actress stepped away. We know one replacement walked into pressure. We know one cast member later remembered the experience with pain. We know one man made falling look funny, then died in a way that made every fall feel fragile. That is why Three's Company still holds people. It was not only about sex jokes. It was not only about misunderstandings. It was not only about a man living with two women. It was about identity, who you pretend to be, who people believe you are, and what happens when the joke becomes stronger than the person. So the next time the theme song starts, listen differently. The door still sounds open, but now it also sounds like a warning. Because behind that door, there was laughter, there was fame, there was money, there was conflict, there was silence, there were replacements, there were reunions that came late, and there was one sudden death that made the whole apartment feel empty. Three's Company gave America a place to laugh. But time turned that place into something else, a hallway full of names, a living room full of ghosts, a door that still opens in reruns, even though so many of the people behind it are gone. Drop a comment. Which Three's Company cast member's story hit you the hardest? And be honest, when you hear that door open now, does it still sound like comedy? Or does it sound like something closing?